What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to Don Uncensored, place where we talk about mindset, things that can help you improve your mindset and just becoming better all around as a human being. Today, ladies and gentlemen, it's already up on the board, so let's talk about it. Let's talk about your environment. Why is your environment so important to who you are, what you become, and what you can do in life? Now, first of all, let's start off with this. Your environment, first off, actually shapes the way that you think. Now, the reason why that is because as a child, if you think about it, as a child, what you are doing is you are absorbing information that comes to you. So your parents, right? If we draw this out, your parents had you, right? Your parents had you. And for your entire life, from anywhere from around 0 to I'd say around 10 years old, you're just constantly absorbing knowledge that comes from your parents. You're constantly absorbing knowledge that comes from your environment, the things that you've gone through, what you've been surrounded by, what you're used to, right? So if you grow up in an environment, right, where it's actually extremely toxic, you're going to have a very toxic mindset as a child that's going to carry you into your adulthood. Now, you have the ability to change that, right? If you're actually conscious, if you use the self-awareness video that I made yesterday, you'll actually be able to change your own mindset. But a lot of people don't, right? So this is why it's really important as kids, or even as a parent, if you're going to become a parent and you're watching this video, or you plan on being one, set your kids up for success, because your kids will literally adopt the habits that you have. So if one of you smokes, right, cigarettes, your child is more likely to have an addiction to cigarettes. If one of you is addicted to alcohol, it's going to pass on into the child and they're more likely to become an alcoholic. If you're not a kid and you're 24 and you are surrounded, right, in a group of 4 people, and in these 4 people, all of these people are lazy, they're angry, and they're ungrateful. Guess what? If you are surrounded by 4 other losers, you're most likely going to be the 5th loser. So being surrounded by 4 other people will then make all of these traits go to who? Go to little old you. You will adopt all of the traits because these are who you're surrounded by. Who you are surrounded by will actually shape how you think and react to multiple things. So if these people don't have good traits around them, they're lazy, they're ungrateful, they're procrastinators, they don't like doing things, they talk shit about a bunch of people, right? They fake their life, right? They do multiple things that don't line up with who they are or what they're trying to be. You're going to adopt that. You're more likely going to be the next friend who's fakes their life, does things that they don't need to. They're a liar, they're lazy, they're a procrastinator, they're all of these things. This can happen because you're surrounded by other people. So make sure your environment and the people you surround yourself with are actually good. They're good people who are going to force you to grow, right? They're going to force you to think about things in different ways and to react to things in much different ways. And here's another thing. If you are anywhere like me and you are a lone wolf type person, don't be. Surround yourself with people who are actually going to be good for you, whether they're older, whether they're younger. If they're pushing you to become better, you want them in your circle. You want them to make you want to be better, right? No matter what age they are. If they're pushing you to be better, include them. Because guess what? A king cannot build his kingdom by himself. A kingdom needs helpers, and the people around you will help you build your kingdom, right? If you are a procrastinator and you're by yourself, you're more likely to stay in that procrastinative state unless you force yourself to change, because you're not surrounded by people who are doing better than you. But if you are a procrastinator and you're surrounded by people who are doing better than you, you're more likely going to change because of the peer pressure, because you don't want to be that person in the group who's broke and has to look and, transfer money from their savings while they're splitting the bill, right? Or you just have to worry about whether or not you'll be able to afford to go out with them. Nobody wants to be that person, right? So you're going to force yourself to work your way up, and that's good for you, right? No matter how conceited that sounds, that's good for you. It's forcing you to grow. Number 2, it actually will shape the way that you act. Again, this is a very easy thing to be able to understand. If you are surrounded by 4 millionaires, right? You're surrounded by 4 millionaires, you're most likely going to be the 5th one. You're most likely going to add yourself to that list of 4 millionaires. By surrounding yourself with these people, you get indoctrinated to the way that they act in life. You get to see their habits. When you go hang out, how do they act? right? When you're chilling at their house with them, how do they act? Do they invite you over and they're still doing work, they're still doing their business, they just allow you to come in and you're allowed to monitor and shadow? Take that moment and study them. If you want to be like them, because you should be surrounding yourself with people who you want to be like, or aspire to be like, or aspire to push you towards to get to their level, you should study that person. You should try and become and imitate what they're doing in your own way. Don't copy, but imitate, right? The greatest artists are always people who imitate the best before them. So imitate the art that you're seeing and make it in your own way. So if you watch this person and they're on their phone constantly, right? They're talking about business deals. They're on their computer, they're working, they're learning new skills, they're trying to become better, right? They're doing all these different things. You're most likely going to pick it up if you're around them a lot. And another thing that's going to happen is you're going to ask questions, because as humans, we're naturally curious. You're going to ask questions and they're going to answer it for you if you're surrounded by the right people. And what you do with that knowledge is up to you. Right? But what you should be doing with that knowledge, if they give it to you, is acting upon it. Because that's how you join them in that echelon that they're at. If you want to become like that person, you have to imitate what they were doing so that way you can get to that level. That's exactly what matters the most, is you have to be able to push yourself to get there. And the people around you should push you to want to be at that same level as them, or even better than them. Right? You should be surrounded by people who either want the best for you or want better for you. They want you to be better than them. Right? That's why it matters so much on your environment. It will shape the way that you act. You're going to go from being a procrastinative dickhead to being a person who actually wakes up with a purpose and decides to get things done. Right? When you focus on the environment and you focus on how it shapes you, how it molds you, you're going to more likely conform to whoever is closest to you. Again, if you're surrounded by 5 people who are lazy, you're going to be the 6th lazy person. If you're surrounded by 5 bodybuilders, you're most likely going to be the 6th bodybuilder. If you're surrounded by millionaires, you're most likely going to be the 6th millionaire. If you're surrounded by people who waste time, you're most likely going to be the 6th person who wastes their own time. Right? Your environment is extremely crucial to how you react to things. And again, this goes into being a kid as well. Depending on your environment that you saw with your parents, that can also affect the way that you react to work, to stress, to happiness, to joy, to anger, to resentment, to insecurities, to security, to lack, to having an abundance. It literally shapes everything about yourself. Your environment forces you and almost molds you exactly into who these people are. Now, here's the thing. A lot of people get stuck in that way. Especially if they're in a bad environment, they repeat the same mistakes over and over and over again, right? So you have to be self-conscious, self-aware. Again, plugging that video again. Go back if you haven't watched that video. It's really good. Use the skills that self-awareness will give to you so that way you can change your life and change the environment that you're in. Number 3, it's going to shape your understanding. Now, this is a very hard way to understand this. This is a very hard way to describe this, so I'm going to describe it in the best way possible. Your environment will shape the way that you understand the situations that happen to you and happen against you or that you cause. Depending on your environment, if you're surrounded by people who are insecure, they're jealous, and they blame others, when you get into a situation that makes you feel some type of emotion, you're most likely going to default to those 3 because your environment has shaped you to think and act in that way. And because you think and act in that way, you understand what's going on from your thoughts and your actions in that way, right? Everything kind of coincides with each other. The way that you think will determine how the way you act, and the way you act will be the way that you understand this action and this thinking. Right? So if your thinking and your actions are negative, your understanding of things are going to be negative. Your understanding of situations is going to be negative. You have to flip the script. Now, either you can force yourself to do that, or again, build a positive environment filled with people who are going to force you to look at things on both sides, the negative and the positive. So that way you can understand somebody's faults if they do something against you, but also understand why they might have done it and what you can learn from that certain lesson or what that certain action that person did to you. Your understanding is shaped by the way that you think and act towards certain situations, because this will then build your own personality and the way that you react to things. Have you ever met somebody who seems to always be mad, or always angry, always upset, always complaining, always lying, always being like a dickhead to people? It's most likely because of their old environment is shaped the way that they think and act. And because of that, this is how they understand their thoughts and actions. This is how they show what they're thinking by using this action, and this understanding makes you act in that way. right? So it builds this for them and makes them act in that certain way. So if you want to become a person who's better, you have to surround yourself again in an environment that forces you to grow, because then your thinking becomes about growth, then your actions become about growth, and then your understanding of your actions is based in growth, right? It's based in something that's positive. It's based in something that's going to help you. It's going to be based in something that's actually going to push you forward instead of bringing you backwards. It's going to push you towards feelings that bring things into your life instead of feelings that pull things away from your life. People, friends, opportunities, business, women, the other people to talk to, different opportunities, spiritual opportunities, mental opportunities, everything. You bankrupt yourself by thinking in these negative ways. And again, you can't blame yourself if you've been raised in an environment where that's all you've been surrounded by. But once you get to the age of 18, when you're really conscious about everything, right, then it's on you. The fact you're repeating the same cycle over and over and over again that was repeated by people that you know and you watched over and over and over again, and if you're consuming this type of content, you're actually aware of what's going on and you're still sitting in that cycle, the blame is only on you. You have to change yourself. You have to change the environment that you're in. Whether that means distancing yourself from your parents or your friends who act in that certain way, to literally staying in your room all the time because this is your only safe space, and you surround it with either people to talk to online or videos that give you mentors and people to look up to. You have to find a way to take your environment and make it positive for yourself. Fill it with things that are actually going to push you forward, because again, your environment will shape the way that you think. The way that you think will shape the way that you act. It will build your understanding of your actions and your thinking. It's all a cycle, right? The thinking makes the action makes the understanding then perceives the think and the action at the same time. Then that builds a personality that makes you the way that you are, right? So if you have an environment, again, that's filled with lazy, aggressive, unaccountable, just bad habits, bad people, that's going to shape the way that you think. That's going to shape the way that you act, and that's going to shape the way that you understand everything that goes on in your life. You're going to start thinking lazy. You're going to start thinking aggressive. You're going to start thinking unaccountable. You're going to start thinking bad. Because of those thoughts, you're going to start acting lazy, aggressive, accountable, bad. And because of that actions, you're going to understand your thinking and the actions you're doing as lazy, aggressive, accountable, and bad. But because you're not in an environment that's going to force you to grow, you're going to think all of these things are normal until you get around people who are going to force you to understand this is not normal. If you want to be a productive member of society or just a good person in general, these are not things that you want to have, right? They're not things that you want to get. The normal that you want to get to is somebody who's actually good for people. They're happy, they're radiant, they're joyful, they're hardworking, right? They're honest, they love people, they love giving, right? You want to be surrounded by those people because those people will build you. Those people will actually pull you towards success instead of pushing you down into the gutter where most people are, right? Most people think in such a negative way and stay in that way because they're surrounded by people who think the same as them, who act the same way as them. Guess what? If you are uncomfortable being next to somebody who is forcing you to grow, that either means two things. You have to grow or you're going to stay the same. And if you stay the same, guess what? That's on you. I would much rather go through the pain of being unhappy and actually going through growth through that time than being happy, staying at the same state. Because guess what? In 3 years, when I see that person who is at the stage I wanted to be, but I've stayed the same, I'm then going to be unhappy that I've stayed the same. I'm 3 years behind, right? I'm 3 years behind of where I should be because of the way that I acted, because of my own actions. But I didn't understand that because the environment I was in was showing me the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. When you understand that your environment shapes the way that you think, act, and understand things, you then go into it every single situation, whether asking yourself, is this person going to help me or are they not going to help me? Are they going to push me towards success or pull me away from success? You have to be very critical. You only get one shot at life. That's it. You get one shot. Next day, you could be gone just like that. So think about it. Why would you want to be surrounded in life by people who are not pushed by success or pushed by growth? You're going to be the sixth person who acts the exact same way. So why are you trying to waste this one opportunity that you get at life filled with people in an environment that's toxic towards you, right? Now, again, I can't fault you if you're not at the age or have enough self-awareness to know. But if you are watching this video, now become self-aware. Take this video, go into my channel, look at the self-awareness video, then look at an analyzation of your life and figure out what you want to change about it. And that might involve your environment. That might involve the space that you're in, what you consume on social media, the people you're around, the conversations you're in, the conversations you have with people. Right? This environment is all shaped by it. So if you notice that your environment is shaped by people who are not what you want to be or not where you want to be, remove them. Get away from it. That environment is not for you. You're forcing yourself to stay somewhere that doesn't work for you. Again, your environment will shape the way that you think, act, and understand things, right? It's up to you to either change the environment if it's toxic or actually stay in an environment where it's good, right? You can go from either or. And you have to be self-aware enough to understand that this is the way that your environment will shape who you are, right? So take all of these, understand this, right? Conquer this, and you'll be much better in life. You'll be surrounded by people who force you to grow. You'll be surrounded by people who are not going to take the bullshit that you give them and are going to force you to look at yourself in the mirror and be honest, right? You're going to be surrounded by people who are going to force you to become more successful. You're going to be surrounded by people who are more happy and joyous and love life. You're going to become the next person who does the same thing. But yeah, you can watch this video and then scroll on and then, you know, keep watching the same thing. Then complain to your guy friends when you get on the video game and you're sitting there wasting your time, right? Complaining about how you're also broke and complaining about how you're also fat and you're complaining about how you're also unhappy. I wonder why. Probably because you're hanging around people who do the same thing. Right? Instead of being around the people who are like, yo, I love eating healthy. I love this food so much. I'll put you onto this. This is one of my favorite snacks to eat. It's so good. It's so healthy for you. Right? You're not surrounded by people who are like, I love sitting there working for myself, doing my own purpose, doing my tasks that like I know that I need to, right? Because it's actually genuinely something I love. You want to be surrounded by the people who love what they're doing, not hate what they're doing. They love the life that they live and not hate the life that they're in. Right? You need to surround yourself with those people. So understand this. Understand how your environment will shape the way that you think, act, and understand things. Conquer that, and you'll be able to conquer a lot more. Be a conqueror.